I'm Isabel Schuss.
And I'm Mary Naranjo.
Welcome to the Oaklander.
Have you ever been so excited about something that you had to call all your friends and tell them about it? Well, we're real excited today.
A few weeks ago, I had a great opportunity to speak to an internationally acclaimed actress and performer. She's accomplished so many things during her long career, and she speaks candidly about them with me.
So sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Isabel Schuss, and today I have the great pleasure of talking with Miss Rita Moreno. As some of you might already know, Miss Moreno is the only female performer to have won all 4 show business prestigious awards: the Tony, the Grammy, the Emmy, and the Academy Award. She's worked in numerous films, over 30 in her career, as well as starred in Broadway productions and productions across the country. Today, in lovely New Jersey, Miss Moreno is with us to talk about her new project, which is hosting a series, Stage to Screen, on the American Movie Classics Network. So, without further ado, here's Rita.
Hi, how are
Rita.
you?
Welcome to the Oaklander.
Thank you.
As I mentioned in my opening, you're here in New Jersey, and you have a new project with American Movie Classics.
I have a series with the American Movie Classics called Stage to Screen, which is a series of movies that were originally plays, and it's on every Friday at 8 p.m. And as a result of my association with AMC, they've asked me if I would, and I have been doing this now, tour the country here and there to present The King and I, a film in which I co-starred with Yul Brynner and Deborah Kerr, and to present it on behalf of AMC and the cable company in that particular area, and this one being TCI. God bless TCI.
Yes, indeed.
And so that's what we're doing here. We're going to present it. It's what's fun about it is that it doesn't cost anything. Every time we've presented The King and I for the public, it's gratis. You don't have to pay to come in. It's a wonderful thing because a lot of young people who never saw it get the chance to see it again, or those who have seen it see it again. And the fun of it is that it's on the widescreen. So it's a very different experience from seeing it on television.
That's great.
Oh, it's an extraordinary movie. It is a classic. It belongs with AMC.
Yeah, I have to admit, I do watch the programming on AMC. I find it fascinating.
Well, you know, I feel they've become like the museum of films. Since I've been working with them and for them in the last 6 months or so, I've realized that if it weren't for American Movie Classics, there wouldn't be too many venues or places for people to see these great old films. Thank God for organizations like American Movie Classics and TCI who make it possible for people to see not only great movies, but uninterrupted great movies, no colorizing, just as they were made.
Yes, I enjoy the no colorizing. I think that it really takes away from the original idea of the person that made the film. If they wanted it in color, they would have made it in color.
It's true, and not only that, when you lit a scene in a movie, in a black and white movie, black and white, you lighted it differently than you do for color. And you lose all of that. You lose the texture and the quality of the original lighting when you put color in it. It's a terrible idea.
I understand that the basics behind them, the people that had done that saying, oh, we'll bring new generations in, but
oh, give me a break. These are great old movies, and you know, they will either see them or they won't because they are great old movies, not because they're in color. Come on.
Well, again, American Movie Classics, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I used to go to New York, where they used to have revival theaters that would show old films, and that's Theater 80, and they really don't have them anymore.
Doesn't that break your heart?
It does. I was even thinking maybe that's something I could do. But I thank God for channels like this, networks that have really good old libraries of films that they can bring back.
That's right. And more than that, what's really terrific about American Movie Classics is that they care so much that they have a week every year where they have a festival where people can call in and contribute to the preservation of old films, because I don't want to tell you the films that have already lost either the original negatives or are well on the way to just turning to dust. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And AMC is doing really a yeoman job in trying to keep a lot of these films alive, either by saving the original old negative or restoring all kinds of stuff like that, which is very important. You know what they've done recently that's marvelous? They have 2 restored movies that are going on, I think this month, and that's the 2 Beatles movies.
Oh, A Hard Day's
Isn't that great?
Night?
Hard Day's Night and Help. Isn't that fabulous?
That's great. Well, Hard
I mean,
Day's Night.
that's the way to get the younger generation.
That's
Forget
right.
the colorization
That's right.
business.
Yeah, Hard Day's Night, black and white.
That's
there you
right.
go.
And do you care? Of course not. It was fabulous.
Well, besides AMC, I've read a little bit about you since I'm thrilled that you're here with me. And I realized that you were signed on at MGM at a young age. I think it was 17.
That's right.
And you had debuted on Broadway at 13.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to today and the stars, and how was it to be in the studio system back then?
It was very different from now. For one thing, I was a contract player at MGM. That was the very first thing I did in life, was to make MGM movies, which for a young girl who sang and danced was like dying and going to heaven.
I bet.
Or living and going to heaven, better yet. And it was entirely different. For one thing, when you went to the studio, it was your studio to make your movies with them, with the extended family, as it were, your film family. Whereas nowadays, when you go into a film studio, it's to make a film, and you don't go back there. This is a place where you were under contract, where they trained you, where they dressed you, where they sent you out on dates sometimes with another person, sometimes a young person who was on the way up.
Yeah.
Publicity dates, they used to call them, right? I know they used to call them date layouts, where movie magazines would come along, tag along, and
Hedda and all the...
all that. There was Hedda Hopper and there was Luella Parsons. It was an entirely different thing. It was filled with make-believe and lots of glamour. That's what I miss the most now, don't you?
Yes, I truly do.
There's so few actors and actresses now who are interested in that. I was so happy at the Oscars to see Susan Sarandon wearing that amazing gown. I thought, oh, God, and it matches her hair, or her hair matches her gown, whichever. But I thought, somebody really cares. And then Gina Davis is another one who
stunning. Sharon
really
Stone
done
was...
up. Stone is a terrifically glamorous woman, but there's very little of that anymore. And I just think though they may tell you it's out of choice, I think it's because they don't know how to look that way.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I think so. I think it's just gone out of even the society today. There's not a lot of glamour.
I know.
So
I miss that.
I miss it. Well, maybe you can bring it back.
Oh,
how about that?
I think it's more important for the younger people to bring it back. It's in their hands, really, and that's why it's changed so much. If it were in our hands, you bet there'd be more of that good stuff going on.
Now, how did you get the part in The King and I? Was it through the MGM contract?
No, because the MGM contract was way before then. I was a contract player at 20th Century Fox, and it was natural that they would find someone within their contract people to play the role. They did test other young women who were not under contract, but ultimately I ended up with the part. I tested like everyone else, and I won it. Also, I think what made me a little bit special from the other girls who tested is that I could sing and that I could move. That was very important, because even though I didn't dance in The King and I, there were a lot of ways in which you had to move in very special ways, that oriental stuff that was just so gorgeous. And I was able to do that. It came naturally to me because I am a dancer. And, I was thinking the other day that I give the world's longest answers, don't I?
That's fine.
They just said,
Makes
say
me
hello to
less
Rita Moreno, and
nervous, and
she's off.
great.
I was just thinking the other day, though, that I'm in about 5 classics, which is, if not a record, it's pretty good.
We'll have to look that up and get you back in the
King and
the
I,
Guinness Book.
Singing in the Rain, The King and I, West Side Story, Carnal Knowledge. There's another one.
Well, I know you did a
And I tell you, I'll tell you that in a bit because we have to come back.
right.
We're going to break now. Don't go away. Come right back.
Thanks.
Come to the Ramapo Mountain Folk Festival, sponsored by the Oakland Cultural and Public Events Committee, Sunday, August 18th, from noon until 8 p.m., featuring some of the best-known performers on the folk music circuit. See Arlo Guthrie, Melanie, Roseanne Cash, Richard Schindel, Roger McGuinn, and others. A separate children's stage with Wacky Professor Putter, juggling and animal acts, and much, much more. Children under 12 admitted free. Tickets are available at Fleet Bank, Yapo Avenue Branch, or write to Ramapo Mountain Folk Festival, P.O. Box 1695, Oakland, New Jersey, 07436. For more information, call 1-800-822-9075. Tickets are priced at $24 in advance, $30 day of show. There's ample parking. Food and drinks are available. It's general admission and the gate opens at 10:30 a.m. So come and see the show.
Hi, we're back with Miss Rita Moreno, and we have lots more questions for her. Speaking about classics, you mentioned West Side Story, and I must admit in front of all my viewers that I saw that movie at least 16 times or more.
You're not alone.
And that's when it came out in 1962. I've seen it a lot more since then.
I think it's one of the reasons they call them classics. True that people just go to see them over and over.
And I was just wondering, I've also took dance from the time I was 5. And
What kind of dance?
Tap and jazz. So I'm a hoofer in the closet type of. I've never really done with anything with it but have fun, so I guess that counts.
That counts for everything, of course.
And I was wondering how it was to work with Jerome Robbins.
Fabulous. I think he's a genius, and it's not a word I use with ease. I don't think there's anyone like him. He is probably has the most unique look, next to Bob Fosse, of any of the other choreographers whose work I've seen, whose work I admire and love. But Jerry also had something very unusual about him. He choreographed in 2 very different ways from everybody else. He choreographed for the character who was dancing that dance, which is to say that that dance was in character with the person they were playing. Very special. And you could really see that when you saw Jerome Robbins on Broadway, when sometimes the wrong young person was doing the part. And the other thing that he did that's unique is he choreographs with an enormous sense of humor. Some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life are not necessarily comedy sketches. They're some of the dances that Jerry has done for Broadway. Hilarious stuff. He did that chase sequence in Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Oh,
That was a hilarious chase sequence. He's just very, very funny.
Yeah, it's amazing. I watch his work and I'm always in awe.
He's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being a star, I know a lot of stars feel sometimes the need to work behind the camera, either directing or producing or choreographing. Have you ever done?
I don't have one iota of interest. Some people are born performers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those.
Oh.
I just don't have it yet. Once in a while, I'll give a direction to someone when I think I have a good idea. And when I worked with my daughter, she and I have done a number of musicals together, and plays actually in regional theater or in summer theater. And I made suggestions to her because she's not so experienced. But other than that, I don't have a yen to do that. I think I'd go nuts anyway. If people were not up to my standards, I think I would go crazy trying to make them come up to a certain level that perhaps they're not capable of. And a director has to have the patience and the understanding to say, well, I've done as much as I can with this person, and I'll leave it alone. I don't think I could ever leave it alone and drive them nuts.
Oh,
They probably hate me.
No, it's hard to hate you, but you never know. Put in the right position, right?
Yeah.
On any given
When you make
Sunday.
demands on somebody and ask them to do something that they're really not capable of, I don't think they're going to love you for too long.
Well, I know that you've worked with a lot of major stars: Gary Cooper, Marlon Brando, Yul Brynner, Jack Nicholson, and just recently George C. Scott and Angus. Is there anybody that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with?
Oh gosh, you know who I love? This probably will surprise you. I think Robert Downey is one of the best young
Yes, I think
actors
he is.
around. I did work with another young actor who blew me away on an off-Broadway production recently. His name is Frank Whaley. He was in a movie called Swimming with Sharks,
Yes, and
among
he-
other things.
He was also in Field of Dreams.
Yes, he played the young, I think he played Kevin Costner's father when he was a little boy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was-
he's a superb young actor, fabulous. So the people I would love to work with are really some new young people.
Yeah.
I just met Winona Ryder recently at an
she's
AMC
excellent.
Diva luncheon, and found out to my absolute delight, if you think I'm showing off, you're right, delight and surprise that she's just this huge fan of mine. And I never think of young people as being admirers of mine, because they say, well, how do they know me? You know, my daughter says it all the time, how do they know you? And then when she says it, I say, shut up. Who asked you?
Right. Go ask
But
Winona
it's so marvelous to meet young people who not only know who you are, but admire you from something, you know, a number of years back.
Well, I think also it comes from families. I know I have a 9-year-old
what
son,
Winona
and I
said.
show him films, Fred Astaire movies. I
Right.
mean, I dragged my husband before we were married, and
Yeah.
so I have him watch. So I think that's how it all works.
I would love to have worked with Gene Kelly. Though I was in Singin' in the Rain, I would love to have danced with him. That would have been unbelievable. Oh, can you imagine? No.
No,
It's
I
hard to
can't.
imagine.
You know, between him and Fred
Imagine-
Astaire,
oh.
it's and you, I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
oh
you know,
my God.
Kelly had that athletic
Yes,
way about
that he
him.
did.
He's also
You
very
know, the
sexy
pirate
man.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was astonishing.
Yeah, Fred had the style. And
Well, you know, I think that Kelly, in a funny way, was underappreciated, particularly by aficionados, because Astaire always has one over because of style and the way he, all style, you know, and of course, obviously his dancing abilities. And I think that in an odd way that Gene got slightly short shrift simply because he was so athletic, and people didn't think of that as dancing, but believe me, that was dancing. If you saw Bob Fosse in Kiss Me Kate, where he did some very athletic stuff.
with all the poles up and around the
Oh,
poles.
and you know, running up walls and all kinds of stuff, astonishing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Donald O'Connor. You know, just another person
One
who's
of the
so
world's
physical.
greatest dance numbers is Make 'Em Laugh and Singing in the
When
Rain.
he walks up that wall. Oh, I said, how does he do that?
Wasn't he astonishing?
Oh,
Gene
it's
Kelly
great.
thought that was the best number in the movie, too. It was just amazing. And you know, the cruelty of this business, that right after Singing in the Rain came out and made such a big hit, who knew it was going to be a classic, he went back to those awful Francis the Talking Mule movies.
I know.
Nobody
it's-
offered him anything else. What a cruel business this is.
I have a piece of him doing roller skating in I Love Melvin, dancing
I
on
didn't
roller
see
skates.
that. Really?
I mean, I have all these films in my home, and you know, again, I
you
show them
lucky
to my. I do.
stiff. I
I have
never
everything.
saw that.
Oh, it's great.
A roller
Rented, it's
skating
out
dance
there.
number?
Yes, on roller skates. The life has its funny little ups and downs is the name of the routine that he does it to, and it is just simply wonderful.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So
Where did you get that?
actually, it's out on video, so you
It is?
can
I Love
rent it.
Melvin?
I Love Melvin. It's with
I'm gonna
Debbie
rent it.
Reynolds and Jim Backus, all the old really greats
Yeah.
back then. So also. Talking about classics, and you're going to be doing this new show, and it's a weekly show, and it's probably going to take a lot of your time. But do you have any other plans to do movies or go back on Broadway?
I will
or-
do a movie when I'm asked. But you know, when you're older, and you're a woman, it's not so easy. You don't get asked that often. So
Even
obviously-
younger, I guess, than a woman.
Exactly,
It's
and
getting
a lot
harder.
younger than I, and it's harder for them. I mean, Meryl Streep has trouble finding a movie. Can you imagine what it's like for someone like myself?
Well, that's why I think in the beginning when I asked regarding the studio system, you know, there was room
You were
for
protected.
everybody, and now
And you were
it's-
protected. You were taken care of in the sense that people literally nurtured your careers. They made careers. Nobody does that anymore, which is why so often you see cases where somebody makes a sensational overnight sensation, overnight so-called in quotes, and you never hear from them again. Or they'll make a sensation and you'll hear from them for a couple of years and then they're gone. There's no such thing anymore as a really genuine, long-lasting career. There is, but there are very few
Right.
of those.
I mean, Clint Eastwood comes to mind right now.
But it's a guy, and it has to do with guns very
Right.
often. I mean,
That's true.
Schwarzenegger will probably be around forever because he does those kind of movies, which is fine. There should be room for everything, but what about the rest of us?
I know. It's really sorry and sad. And
It's a sorry thing. You're right.
I was also wanted to ask you. I love how you dance, and I read that you were 5 when you started. Did you take jazz or tap or just the basic?
I was a Spanish dancer.
Oh, really?
I had no training whatever for the kind of dancing I eventually did. None.
Wow.
I did do tap and ballet, some ballet and a lot of tap, which is why I was a good flamenco dancer. But I have a feeling we're going to have to cut this short
Yes,
unhappily.
I know.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
fun.
Yes, it is fun, and I really, really appreciate you coming,
It's my
spending
pleasure.
time with us. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, that was Miss Rita Moreno, and again, please look for her on Friday nights on American Movie Classics. There are some people I'd like to thank for having me here. Lynn Davis from American Movie Classics. Without her, this wouldn't have been able to come away. I also want to thank my friend Mary, who knew someone else who knew Lynn. And you know, it goes to show you, you have to know people in this world to get ahead.
It's called networking.
That's it, networking. I'd like to also thank my crew today, Rudy and Patty Dolce. And don't forget to watch the Oaklander every Monday night at 6 to 7 and 8 to 9. Thanks. Bye.
25 years ago, America made a commitment to a healthier environment. And today, our air is cleaner, our drinking water safer, our rivers and streams less polluted. But now, the polluters are back, teamed up with other special interests and a new majority in Congress to weaken our environmental protection laws. Don't let them turn back the clock. Call 1-800-334-2100 to find out how you can help.
American Movie Classics, we welcome you tonight. We're really happy that you could be here because we have a very special guest. And what I'd like to do right now is read a little bit about her and let you know who it is. I'm very excited. This is someone that I've been watching since I was a child in a lot of different movies, and I'm sure you'll recognize her. She's an award-winning actress. And why don't I get started? Our special guest tonight is Rita Moreno. And she's the only, and I say only, female performer to have won all 4 of the most prestigious show business awards. And that's the Academy Award, the Emmy Award, the Tony, and the Grammy. And she has, in fact, been listed in the Guinness World Book of Records for this achievement. And in 1995, Miss Moreno received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Miss Moreno was born Rose Dolores Alvario in Humacao, a small town near the famous rainforest in Puerto Rico. At 5 years old, she moved to the United States with her family, and at the age of 13, she had her Broadway debut in Skydrift, which starred Eli Wallach. Then, in the true tradition of Hollywood, a talent scout arranged for a meeting for 17-year-old Rita with Louis B. Mayer, and she was signed with a contract with MGM. From that point on, her career advanced steadily. She made some 30 films early in her career. The King and I, which we're watching tonight, in which she played the role Tuptim, was among the films she made during this period. It was only after she won the Academy Award for her outstanding performance as Anita in West Side Story, for which she gained international acclaim, that she was finally recognized as a major talent. Ms. Moreno has also been the guest star on a wide variety of television productions, both here and abroad. She's proud to have been featured artist for many years on The Electric Company, the highly regarded educational television program. In 1994, Ms. Moreno returned to New York to appear as a series regular opposite Bill Cosby on the Cosby Mystery Series on NBC. Ms. Moreno continues to be kept busy performing concerts across the country as a guest artist with the symphony orchestras for their Pops series, and is the newest addition to the American Movie Classics family as an on-air host of its stage-to-screen programming series every Friday evening. Who can tell me what channel AMC is on? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Miss Rita Moreno.
With every single one of you this evening. It's great to see you here. You're in for such a treat. And we have AMC and TCI to thank for this generous community offer. Thank you. We have AMC and TCI to thank for this marvelous event. Most of you, because I can tell by the color of your hair, have seen The King and I. The color of my hair also has changed since The King and I. You're going to see a very young Rita Moreno. So in order to present this wonderful, wonderful movie, I'd like to tell you just a couple of little anecdotes about the movie and the making of it, and a little bit about Yul Brynner that I think you might find interesting. First of all, before it became a movie, it was a play, a musical play. And The King and I became a play when Gertrude Lawrence read a book by a lady named Anna Leonowens about her experiences. I think it was called something like an American school teacher in the Siamese court. And when she read it, she thought, interestingly, because God, it would never have occurred to me that it would make a wonderful musical. So she went to Rodgers and Hammerstein and said, this would make a wonderful musical. What about it? And wait a minute. Right? It's going right up my nose. Right? I'm in show business. You don't do that to a diva. Somebody said to me, several people said to me tonight, I love your top. And I said, well, I think divas should glitter. So she went to Rodgers and Hammerstein, both of whom agreed that it would be a lovely idea, and that's how The King and I was born. Gertrude Lawrence played in that play, the musical play, for 2 years, in fact, to the end of her life. She died during the end of the 2 years. I needn't tell you that it's an extremely popular musical play. As you know, it's back with Lou Diamond Phillips, who was a friend of mine. I can't wait to see it with him. I'm sure he'll be wonderful. I know Yul Brynner, but then nobody is. And that's not meant in any negative way. It's just that Yul Brynner was Yul Brynner. There have been a number of productions. One was with Rudolf Nureyev, which probably gave the Shall We Dance sequence new meaning. I hear it was not a very good production, but I hear that sequence was really wonderful. And of course, well, you may or may not know this, Julie Andrews and Ben Kingsley made an album, and I think it was in England, of The King and I, an LP album of The King and I, with Ben Kingsley, the great British actor, playing the king, and Julie, who is really the definitive Anna, playing Anna. Of course, she was too young at the time that we made this movie. I'll tell you how I got into it. I was a contract player at 20th Century Fox, having done just one movie for them prior to The King and I. And it seemed natural, of course, to the powers that be at that time that I would be the inheritor of the Tuptim role. They did test other young ladies. In fact, one of them was a beautiful Asian beauty, a girl named France Nguyen, who did you know who she was gorgeous. In fact, when I saw her, because we were all testing on the same day, I thought, well, that's it. I'm dead. There's no chance of my getting it. I did. I got it probably because I was a contract player, number one, also because I could sing and because I could move in a very special way. Though I wasn't dancing in it, I was and am a dancer, and there are ways you have of moving that are different from what I call civilians. Though I would wonder why an Asian girl didn't get it, but that was then and this is now. Nowadays, you can bet it would have been played by an Asian young lady. Yul Brynner did something very interesting prior to shooting the film. I didn't know him at the time. I was busy in rehearsals with Jerome Robbins. And by the way, that was one of the luckiest things that ever happened to me because of The King and I ended up doing West Side Story because of Jerome Robbins. I have him to thank for an amazing career and an Oscar and all sorts of worldwide recognition because of The King and I. While we were rehearsing, Yul Brynner called me up, and as I said, I didn't know him. And he said, Rita Moreno. And I said, yes. And he said, this is Yul Brynner. And I said, oh, yes, Mr. Brynner, what can I do for you? He said, this may sound strange, but he said, I want you to go to an acting teacher that I have chosen for you, and I want you to work on the part of Tuptim with this woman. And I said, well, have you ever seen my work before? And he said, no. He said, it has nothing to do with your work. I don't know whether you're good or you're bad or you're medium. He said, but I have a theory. He said, I feel that the part of ingenues in musical plays are merely an excuse for love songs. And he says, well, the love songs are beautiful, the parts of the ingenues are very boring. He says, everybody always goes to sleep when these girls are on because they're always very pure, they're always very one-dimensional, and nobody's really interested. So I want you to study this role with someone and try to make it as rich as you can so that you can be as good as you can be in what essentially, he said, is a dull role. Now, and he was being very matter-of-fact. And after I hung up, I thought, gee, what a generous thing to do, because he paid for the classes that I took with this acting coach. And I thought, what a generous thing to do. But I realized later, many, many years later, that it had nothing to do with generosity. It had to do with being very astute. Because Yul, as a director, you see, he was a director first before he was an actor, and a very good one, I'm told. He understood that you can only be as good as the people who work with you. You always want to work with people who are at least as good as you are, or even better than you are, which elevates whatever the work it is that you're doing. This goes for any business, not just show business. And that's why he did that. Another interesting aspect of The King and I was the young man who plays Loon Ta, my lover. His name is Carlos Rivas, a darling, darling man who could not sing to save his life. Not only could he not sing, he was horrifying. In fact, he sang in a monotone. You know what a monotone sounds like when they're singing? I'll do it for you. This is Carlos Rivas singing, we kiss in the shadow, we hide from the moon. But he couldn't hear himself, he couldn't hear a melody, it was frightful. I thought, oh my God, what are we going to do about him? Because he was very good looking and tall and gorgeous physique. And they solved that very easily. They just got him a voice. But his voice was truly so, it was so hideous that I went, first of all, let me explain something. When you do a musical in movies, you pre-record your songs. You don't sing them live on the set. Some of you may know that, some of you may not. You pre-record them. The reason for that is that you get gorgeous, perfect sound, okay? So in the pre-record, that was easy. I sang with a young man who was singing for Carlos Rivas. But when we got to the set, that beautiful garden setting, which you will see in the meetings in the garden of the palace, I could still hear Carlos over the recording, the track, because they would play it back. And I went and I finally, in absolute desperation, because I either wanted to laugh or slap his face. And I went to the sound engineer and I said, "Can you play that recording louder?" And he said, "Well, it's pretty loud." And I said, "Yeah, but can you play it louder?" And he said, "Well, why?" I said, "Well, he just sounds so awful that I want to laugh or slap his face." And he said, "Yeah, I understand." So we played it. I'm probably spoiling the scene for you forever. But it's kind of fun to know that when I'm looking at him romantically, I was saying, "Please drown out his voice. I'm going to slap his face." And so while we're speaking of voices, the girl who sang for Deborah Carr, who obviously was not a singer, she was a wonderful English actress, is a girl named Marnie Nixon, whom I'm sure many of you know her name because she sang for Natalie Wood in West Side Story, and she sang for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady. Not a good match because Hepburn had a low speaking voice and there was no way you were ever going to get that to sound right. But Marnie Nixon sang for those people. What was astonishing about Marnie and Deborah is that this was Marnie's first really big job, and she wanted to make good. And her timbre and Deborah's were really sort of in the same place. You know, they were both sopranos, and as you will notice, Deborah spoke in a rather high, very English speaking voice. And Marnie made it her business to sound as much like Deborah Carr as she possibly could. And boy, let me tell you, it was magical. More than with Natalie Wood, more than with anybody else. She really sounded like Deborah. She sacrificed the beauty of her singing voice so that she could sound more like Deborah Carr. It sounded so much like Deborah that the crew didn't know that it wasn't Deborah singing. That's unusual. Crews who've been doing musicals forever usually know this kind of stuff. And I want you to take special notice of the Getting to Know You song, because there you'll see what an amazing match it is. The song starts with Deborah speaking and then just slides very subtly into song. And she's saying to all of us, because she's teaching us, she says, "It's a very ancient saying, but a true and honest thought, that if you become a teacher, by your pupils you'll be taught. As a teacher I've been learning." And she goes right into, I defy you to tell me that it's not Deborah singing. It really is a glorious match. So while we're also talking about singing voices, many years after West Side Story, I was doing a benefit performance for Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward for family planning in Connecticut. Many, many years later, I was going to perform there. And it was one of those nights where they had zillions of terrific stars, some Broadway, some TV, some movie. And I'm standing in the wings watching Paul Newman doing a comedy sketch on stage. And this lady comes up to me. She's kind of a hefty young woman, quite hefty. And she says, "Hi." And I turned around and I said, "Hi," not knowing who she was. And she says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "Well, no." She said, "I was one of your backup girls in a movie you did." Now, backup girls, you know, the Supremes, Diana Ross had backup girls, but to see this girl, this young woman with a heavy bosom and kind of big, was not. Her name is Marilyn Horne. Great contralto opera singer. And I knew who she was, and I was just thrilled to meet her for the first time. I thought, she said, "Oh, you don't remember." I said, "What did you do?" She said, "I was one of your backup girls when you did the ballet, The Small House of Uncle Thomas. I was one of those who sang, Small House of Uncle Thomas, Small House of Uncle Thomas." was she? She says, oh, well, I was one of them. And then later on, you'll hear her voice in the contralto, which is glorious. In the Small House of Uncle Thomas Ballet, at the very end, when little Eva dies and goes up the ladder to heaven, she's got wings on her back, you'll hear this glorious, rich voice saying, praise to Buddha, praise to Buddha. That's Marilyn Horne. You hear it, Marilyn Horne. And I remember going to the auditions when women were auditioning for that chorus. And I remember then, when she told me that, hearing her audition, she did some amazing aria from an opera, and turning to the music director saying, this is obscene. Why should a young woman like this with a voice like that have to audition for you? You know, for The King and I, for a mere Broadway musical. It's obscene. And I remember Ken Darby saying to me, he was the music director, saying, you're right, this is a crazy business. It's a cruel and crazy business. After that, way after that, Marilyn Horne became famous. We shot, this I think will be of great interest to you. The way in which we shot The Small House of Uncle Thomas was extremely complicated because, as you will be reminded when you see it, and I will remind you now, there's a narration. I talk, and with each word there are movements. The girls are doing all kinds of movements in synchronization with my words. And how do you pre-record something like this? I mean, it was a brand new problem that no movie studio had ever had to deal with before. And they came up with an amazingly novel idea, which has not been duplicated since, mostly because there hasn't been a need for it. In other words, when the music was playing, the girls had to do the steps, and it had to match my narration. I was the one, in a way, who set the tempo, you know, how fast and how slow. And so what they decided to do was they had the orchestra, which was huge. We had about a 125-piece orchestra with very exotic instruments. Things like boobams. I've never heard of instruments like that before. They were in one recording studio. This is on the 20th Century Fox lot. The dancers were in another recording studio with a television camera. Not recording, but showing them. I was in yet another studio with earphones on, with cans, listening to the orchestra and a television monitor, watching the dancers, because they and I had to be kind of in sync. If I did something too fast, sometimes it was very hard for them to change position and go into other steps. And that's how we shot The Small House, that is recorded, pre-recorded The Small House of Uncle Thomas Ballet. I was in one studio, listening and watching on the monitor. I was in another, the dancers were in another studio with the music being piped in through loudspeakers, and the orchestra was in yet another studio. So every time we did a take, let's say we would do a quarter of the ballet, we would finish that quarter, we would all run out of the studios and go back to where the orchestra was to listen to it, and the dancers would try it again doing their steps. Very, very, very complex. As a last little bit of trivia, this movie came out in 1956. It was the biggest money maker till then of all time, and it was certainly the biggest money maker of 1956. Do you know how much money that movie made? $8 million. Which simply means that if a movie opened tomorrow on a weekend and made $8 million, they would pull it. Times, they haven't changed. Have a wonderful evening, and thank TCI and AMC for this, or it wouldn't have been possible. Good night.
Hi, I'm Jerry Peterson with the Friends of Kimberly Edson Committee. Let me introduce you to a very special little lady. Kimberly Edson, diagnosed with diamond blackfan anemia, an extremely rare disease, which means it's the inability to produce her own blood is just a year and a half old. You probably read about her recently in the suburban news or heard public service announcements on Oakland's own WVNJ radio, or saw one of the many collection jars at the local businesses. These people know, and now we would like you to know, that Kimberly needs our help. Kimberly's second birthday is on October 31st. She has become Oakland's little pumpkin. A group of parents have formed a Friends for Kimberly Edson committee. Before ending the school year, all 3 elementary schools and the Valley Middle School had sponsored special activities that helped raise awareness of Kimberly's needs and brought in money to help with Kimberly's medical expenses, and we're very grateful for all of their effort. The current activity we are sponsoring is a summer readathon in conjunction with the Oakland Public Library. They are calling it the Razzle Dazzle Read Program. Each child, which it began June 24th, will have the opportunity to select books, read them, and then enter them with Miss Debbie on his or her own reading log. Your viewers, family, aunts, uncles, cousins, or whomever can sponsor some or all of the books the child reads by pledging 50 cents a book. Participation is strictly on a volunteer basis. Children may participate in the Razzle Dazzle Read program with or without doing the sponsorship. The program does end on August 27th with a party at the public library, and the child can pick up his or her own individual reading log. Parents will then review the reading log and make arrangements to collect pledges from the sponsors. The contributions will be collected at each respected school after school reopens in September. 100% of the proceeds will be given to the Kimberly Edson Foundation, which has been set up to help with the medical expenses that I'm sure you can realize are astronomical. While insurance usually pays for 80% of what is determined to be usual and customary coverage, most of this treatment is not covered. There has only been 400 cases of diamond black fan anemia in the last 60 years. There hasn't been a lot of clinical studies to substantiate treatment, and insurance companies are very, very hesitant. The readathon lasts through August. After that, WVNJ AM in Oakland will host a Kimberly Edson benefit at the Indian Hills High School. This will take place in September. Then in November, the Friends for Kimberly Edson Committee will sponsor an auction with a special section dedicated to sports memorabilia. We are going to ask many local businesses to donate merchandise or a service. The committee is very open to having volunteers join us. If you're interested, please call at 337-7943. If you would like to contact the Kimberly Edson Foundation or make a donation, you can mail the donation directly to the Edson's home at 22 Spring Avenue in Oakland. Other forthcoming information will be available soon about another address for the foundation. All of these donations will give the Edsons every opportunity to take advantage of all medical treatments available for their daughter Kimberly. This, I feel, is the best gift we can give them. Please let us continue the wonderful outpouring of support for Oakland's little pumpkin, Kimberly Edson. Thank you.
Well, that's our show, and we hope you all enjoyed it. We'd love to hear from you. Our number is 405-1084.
And I'd like to add a special thanks to both Rudy and Patty Dolce of Cornerstone Productions for their help.
I'm Mary Naranjo.
And I'm Isabel Schuss.
Until next time.
This is Frank Scardo from Oakland Wildlife Management. Right now we have a problem with missing heart traps. It's not one or two that's missing, but when you go in big numbers like 60 at one time, and they cost me around $90 a piece, I don't get nothing back reimbursed from the state. So I have to look for other means to get the traps back. People are careless, they just don't want to bring them back to you. And I guess when they get it 2 years, if they had them for 2 years, then they're embarrassed to bring them back. But they shouldn't be embarrassed. I really need them very bad. Other people need them, not me. Other people need them for the groundhogs and what have you. These are live traps for catching live animals that have a heart, and they won't injure any animal at all, so there's nothing to be afraid of except to bring my traps back. Appreciate it very much if everybody knows that where my traps are. They could bring them back. Nothing will be said.
Come to the Ramapo Mountain Folk Festival, sponsored by the Oakland Cultural and Public Events Committee, Sunday, August 18th, from noon until 8 p.m., featuring some of the best-known performers on the folk music circuit. See Arlo Guthrie, Melanie, Roseanne Cash, Richard Schindel, Roger McGuinn, and others. A separate children's stage with Wacky Professor Putter, juggling and animal acts, and much, much more. Children under 12 admitted free. Tickets are available at Fleet Bank, Yapo Avenue branch, or write to Ramapo Mountain Folk Festival, P.O. Box 1695, Oakland, New Jersey, 07436. For more information, call 1-800-822-9075. Tickets are priced at $24 in advance, $30 day of show. There's ample parking. Food and drinks are available. It's general admission and the gate opens at 10:30 a.m. So come and see the show.
Wait, hold it. Don't roll credits. Don't roll credits. Hang on there. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now wait, hold on. We're not done yet. This month we have 2 new shows. Up next is our annual Oaklander August Summer Review. See great musical guests from last year. There's Lou Paulo. There's John Paris. It's Emmett Finley. Frosty. There's even a new Beatles music video and a whole lot more that you've never seen before. So, okay, now roll the credits. Hit it, boys!
Baby, can't I give her your name? You know it's hard to forget all the pain. Try a new style, get a new brand. 'Cause now she's waiting for you, and you don't know what to do. I believe in my love, I believe in you. Don't let people tell you what you ought to do. What you don't see, don't get. Don't ever be no other person's pet. That you can shine on like an alkaline battery. Shine on like a day-glow poster. Shine on like a fist full of hot fire. Shine on like a beacon for hire. You miss the girl when you're alone. How many times can you call on the phone? Love is the